Hurricane Milton was being predicted to be a force 5. I think that's the top. But by the time it actually hit, it had been downgraded to a force 3 storm. That still meant winds of up to 120 miles an hour and huge waves and tides and destruction. But the crucial point would be why it was expected to be so destructive wasn't simply velocity of the wind, the level of the sea. It was the fact that people in Florida were still in the process clearing up the debris, the wreckage left by Storm Helena just a couple of weeks ago. And clearly what the authorities, what the emergency services feared, and I presume that this did happen, is that the new hurricane picks up the debris left behind by the last ones. And this then hits buildings, this then hits cars, this then hits power lines. In other words, if you take Hurricane Milton, it wasn't simply its force, it was the fact that it followed so quickly behind Hurricane Helena. Now, my understanding is that 17 people were killed. This is a testimony to an advanced society. If this had happened in a Bangladesh or in India, death toll would clearly be in the thousands. There's no doubt. Nonetheless, 1.6 million people were left without power. And of course, that matters in an advanced society in terms of food, in terms of communication, in terms of staying alive. The root cause of the severity of this storm, the appearance of one hurricane following another. It's called global warming. It's called CO2 emissions. It's about the surface temperature of the oceans. It's about the level of the sea, ice sheets, the glaciers are melting and putting more and more water into the oceans. And these are conditions that lead precisely to more severe and more frequent, in terms of the analysis of Helena and Milton, is that the modeling is based on a 1.3 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels. And on that basis, let me get it right, the World Weather Attribution Service, I've looked at their site, they seem to be kosher, they seem to be sensible scientists. What they say is that such hurricanes have gone from being a 1 in 100 years expectation. So it's quite fluky, isn't it? That the last storm that was the equivalent of Milton was 100 years ago that hit Florida. But what they're saying now is it's gone from a 1 in 100 years expectation that you'll be hit by something like this to a 1 in 10 year expectation. And what they talk about is the expectation again is that in terms of intensity, they would be between 20 and 30% more intense than they would have been in pre 1850-ish sort of times. But also, we're not simply at the level of 1.3 degrees centigrade over pre-industrial levels. As everyone knows, is that temperatures are nudging up to and sometimes even beyond a global average of over 1.5 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial time. New Scientist journal has run an interesting article basically saying that even if human beings stopped releasing CO2, even if we came to a carbon neutral economy now, we would still be expecting not just tens of years, but hundreds of years, and perhaps never, in order to cool the world down again. Some things are reversible after a considerable period of time. Some things are irreversible. We are approaching various tipping points. So Antarctica and the Arctic ice sheets continue to melt, the glaciers continue to melt. We're moving into more and more extreme weather, and potentially into conditions of where whole cities become uninhabitable. Jakarta, that's being abandoned by the Indonesian government. They're building a new capital, but clearly whole countries are also in danger. The most obvious one, I suppose, is Bangladesh. It's very low lying. It's got big river delta, but also states in the US, such as Florida, are also in danger of inundation. And we're not talking about hundreds of years time. We're talking potentially in tens of years time. This isn't simply a weather question, it's a climate question. Where we're going is into a situation of extreme unpredictability. Traditional agriculture areas, for example, the Central Belt in the United States, can be turned to desert. Various parts of the United States, cities like Houston, can simply be left underwater. And what then happens in terms of human beings, where they live, what happens in terms of refugees, this is something that in terms of capitalism, clearly the market can't deal with. Whether capitalism or the capitalist state will rise to the challenge, that's an open question. And from our angle, the only human, the only rational, the only civilized approach is collective decision making, is ownership and control over the means of production, and shifting from production for the sake of profit, for the sake of accumulation, over to production for the sake of need.